our guest is actually, it's kind of exciting because we talk about the 1.5 to 2 points within, you said within the margin of anything can happen. It's actually also within the margin of the field operation. So today's guest is actually the guy who's in charge of Unite Here, the labor union, Unite Here's Western Regional Political Director and National Field Director. And he is Mario Yedida. And Mario, thank you so much for joining us. And I just want to, when I talk about this party official I was discussing the Nevada race. He said that the best field operation in the country was Nevada. And the second best was Pennsylvania. And Mario, you guys are active in both those states, aren't you? It is the best field organization because of your work, isn't it?
We're doing what we can to knock as many doors as we can to talk to as many voters. And it's true that we're the largest IEs knocking doors for Democrats, both in the U.S. Senate side and the gubernatorial side in both those states. The stakes are really high for all of us, especially for hospitality workers, which is why we're throwing down, Marcos. And
so, Mario, as we were talking about in the intro, the polling shows Senator Cortez Masto, 1 or 2 points down. We talked about how it's a crowded ballot. It has none of the above. It's hard to poll Latinos, all of that stuff. So you probably have the best insight into the actual state of the race. How do you see it right now? What are the dynamics and how are our chances?
Yeah. I mean, I think that the thing you have to start with when you're talking to voters in Nevada, and this is certainly true for the Latinos whom you and Carrie spoke about in the intro, and also for white, African-American, Asian-American, and other racial groups of voters, is the state of the housing crisis in Nevada. So when we knock doors and talk to people, the fact that rent is up over 30% year over year in the Las Vegas Valley, which is home to about 2 million people, and up 22% in Reno in the north, which is home to 500,000 people, is just difficult to overstate the importance of that for the voters whom we're talking with. So when we open conversations, that's what we're talking to people about. That's what people care about, is the cost of housing, of rent in particular. That and the reality of gas prices in Nevada today, they're $5.40. That's extraordinarily challenging. And so we are taking on head on, Marcos and Carrie, the reality of the 600-pound gorilla that is the economy. We have to talk with voters about that, just as much as we have to talk with them about Dobbs and the importance to protect the right to abortion, and other social issues. But it really starts and ends, I'd say, with the economic for us.
So that seems like a challenging environment to take on. I mean, inflation is the thing that a lot of Democrats are struggling talking about. What are you telling voters, and do they feel like Democrats are on their side? Do they feel like Democrats have tried to be responsive, with trying to bring, just the cost of living down for them, or do they feel overlooked?
Yeah, Carrie, I think that voters are compelled by our vision. And what we say to them is, we, the Culinary Workers Union, and so we represent 60,000 hotel guest room attendants. Those are housekeepers, bartenders, dishwashers, cooks, porters, people who do front and back of the house work on the Las Vegas Strip, downtown, and in Reno. We also represent people who work at the stadiums, and laundries. We have a plan to deal with the reality of out of control rents. We call it neighborhood stability. And we have a policy that would prohibit landlords from raising the rent in the first year of a tenancy, from raising rent faster than, say, Social Security or inflation, or maybe cap it at 5%. And the fact that U.S. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto and the incumbent governor, Steve Sisolak, and I must say, our down ballot congressional candidates, all 3 Las Vegas congressional seats, 1, 3, and 4, that's Horsford, Titus, and Lee, are all Cook certified report political toss-ups. They have been all year. I guess they might have moved CD4 into the lean D column maybe 4 days ago. These are extraordinarily close races. But the fact that all those candidates I just named support neighborhood stability, support the policy that I just mentioned, The governor was there at our rally when we launched this campaign to deal with rents, is clear to voters. I don't think people think that, Adam Laxalt, our chief opponent, who, is a proponent of Trump's big lie, who was his legal counsel in 2020 in the state of Nevada when Trump was pursuing these fraudulent claims about the election, and has since, done work with a lobbying firm in support of the oil and gas industry, is personally invested in drug companies. I don't think voters feel like Republicans are going to do anything about high prices or take on the reality of concentrated corporate power that is making people's lives so hard. And that is the reason that gas prices and gas and groceries and rent have gone up, Carrie. So we got a fighting shot, Carrie. Absolutely. No question we have a fighting shot here.
Yeah. Can I just ask, is the neighborhood stability measure, is it a state level measure, or is something you're pushing at the federal level?
It's something that we're pursuing at the county level in both Clark and Washoe counties. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great.
We initially contemplated pursuing a ballot measure in a city in the Las Vegas Valley about it, but this will be a county measure. Yeah.
So Republicans are, they've got this national message that, the Bidenflation national message, the gas prices are all Biden's fault. In most everywhere we've looked at, the Democrats are also working on a sort of national platform, right? It's obviously abortion, the Dobbs decision is a big part of that, as well as now we have student debt relief, we have marijuana legalization effort. Like, there's these national issues. You're the first person we've talked to that's really has like a very hyper local issue, and your argument is that is actually driving the election, and that's actually kind of fascinating. And I'm curious if you have a sense of, if you were to are these national issues just less important because of the housing price issue? Is there something else that makes that housing issue that potent or that important in a way that that local issues no longer seem to play in national elections?
I wouldn't overstate. I'm not sure I would think about it in terms of national issues being less important. I think what I'd say is when you talk to a voter and when working families think about the reality of getting to work next week and paying the rent next month, the biggest piece of people's budget is housing and gas and groceries. And those three fundamental line items on the checkbook are, in a climate like this, the most compelling things. And when you have a housekeeper, a dishwasher, a bartender, or a cook knocking on your door saying, hey, look, I'm out here in 103 degrees because this election is about the future of my life and my family and your life and your future and your children's future. We start with those bread and butter pocketbook issues because they're extraordinarily important. Marcos, I have to say, and Carrie, we do talk about the need to protect people's right to a free and fair abortion. Voters are aware of Dobbs, certainly. And you can't turn on a sporting event or the local news in a place like Las Vegas. I'm talking to you live and direct from Congressional District 4, right? Here in Las Vegas, without being inundated with ads that have all the national narratives you spoke to. So I think those are on people's minds, certainly. But it starts and ends for us because of who we are and because of what voters care about with the economy.
Do Republicans have anything approaching the ground game that you've got going there? Do you think?
It's difficult to say. What I would say is we shouldn't undercount the work that they do and have done. Certainly in 2020, Carrie, when we started knocking on doors and we were the biggest political operation in the state, we knocked on 650,000 post-primary doors in the state of Nevada.
That's a lot.
We've exceeded 500,000 in the last 2 months, I'll say. And we're going to do twice that this year. We've been quite open about it. That's public. We're going to knock on 1 million doors. We have 343 people statewide doing the work in Vegas and Reno right now. I will say that 2 years ago, when we started knocking on doors in August, Republicans were already out there. We saw the Trump lit on the doors. We saw canvassers doing their thing. So I don't think that we should discount the ability and the reality of the Republican ground game. We certainly, are known for having the biggest canvass program in Nevada. We also have one, Marcos, as you mentioned, that is the biggest program in Pennsylvania. And we're going to be bigger than ever before this year.
So you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that your famous national best-in-class field operation of 2020 is going to almost double in size this year in a midterm election?
Yeah, not even almost. We are doing twice as many doors in Nevada as we've ever done, because we knew, Marcos and Carrie, that the climate was this challenging, because we need to do it in order to win. And I think that people need to know that victory is possible in Nevada, but we need everyone to pitch in.
Holy shit. No,
Yeah,
seriously, that's impressive.
Yeah, in 2020, I did, this is kind of full disclosure, but I mean, it's not like anybody here thinks I'm voting for Republicans, but I did some calling with the Unite Here, operation. So I don't know. I can't remember how many people I called, but just cold calling people on the phone. And I assume you guys have something going like that this year too. I don't know.
We do. We have a fully bilingual Spanish-English program. And we certainly also are communicating with people in all the other ways that people get their information. And we fundamentally think, though, Carrie, that it is the door-to-door conversation. It is the face-to-face meeting of two human beings that can be the difference, and that is the most motivating in, as you guys said, really succinctly and crisply in this intro, a low-margin race where field can be the difference. Right. That's Nevada.
Right. So we talked about how. Actually, no. Let me ask you this: Nevada has this really unique and interesting none of the above option in ballots. How does that affect races, and how does that make it hard to poll a race? I mean, I've heard this multiple times, but nobody's really fully explained why that complicates polling of the race. Is none of the above option that only exists in Nevada?
It's true. It's a good question, Marcos. The none of the above option is unique to our state. It works out differently in different years. If one totals the third-party votes, say in the presidential in 2016, and the none of the above option, Hillary won this state by 2.4 points. But the difference was exceeded by those none of the above and third-party options. However, in 2020, Biden won this state by 2.3 points, so a tenth of a point worse. But those third-party and none of the above options would not have exceeded the difference. So it's a great question, Marcos, but I think it's maybe one that I don't know the answer to.
Who knows? So it's truly, it's a wild card. Like, it's legit. When people say we don't know what it means, like, you who run the field operation and are most informed about how that impacts the race, you can say, or you're saying it's a wild card.
In general, we are talking to voters who, to your earlier point about the challenges in, some people say polling Latinos, other people say reaching people in general on the phones. Nevada is an extraordinarily transient state. 40% of everyone who cast a ballot here in 2020 had never voted in the state before. That's the highest proportion of any state in the country. Las Vegas has always been a boom town, a transitional place where people come because of the economy. I think that the challenges in understanding how the none of the above works are real and interesting to understand. But in general, we're talking to voters who, if we talk to them about our issues and make clear the stakes of the election and where Catherine Cortez Masto and Governor Sisolak stand, will vote our way.
And just let me follow up, if it's okay, Carrie. So there's a lot of talk about 2022 engagement starting to approach 2020 presidential year levels. How are you feeling about what's the response look like? How are you feeling turnout might look like, and how does it compare to 2020? Are we looking at 2020 comparisons, where everybody turns out, or are we still struggling with getting our people motivated, more like a historical midterm where the party in power lacks in intensity?
I think there is excitement, energy, and interest in this election. People are getting ready to understand the stakes and cast their ballots. We have universal mail balloting here. So, the statutory deadline sometime next week. Ballots must be mailed by county registrars to voters. We have in-person early vote on top of that, a second mode of voting, where from Saturday, October 22nd through Friday, November 4th, a full 2 weeks, there are multiple polling locations that different counties set up where you can go and cast your ballot in person for 2 whole weeks before Election Day. And then, of course, there's also Election Day poll voting. So I think giving voters all of those options to vote and understanding the real stakes, especially in a door-to-door way, Marcos and Carrie, again, of course, I will come back to this. I think that the amount of stimuli so many voters receive on YouTube and radio and television makes it easy to be dispirited about politics, right? Mm-hmm. But I think if you get a door knock from a housekeeper from a casino in downtown or the Strip, Las Vegas, it's a different kind of conversation, and it's a different level of motivation. And yeah, in short, I think that we're in an era. Some people have argued that turnout is generally higher. We're certainly expecting turnout to be robust and meaningful.
Wow.
In Nevada.
Wow. What, just real quick, since Trump was just there, do you think he has any sort of practical effect on the ground? I mean, does he help gin up the anti-Trump vote? Does he potentially help really, push the pro MAGA vote among rural voters? I mean, I just wonder if you have any sense of that.
He certainly seems to be motivating for Republicans. That seems true. Again, in 2016, Nevada was the one battleground state by many people's, metrics and categories where we beat Trump in 2016. We also beat him here in 2020. So we know that Nevada voters ultimately reject that MAGA worldview. When we talk to voters, it's certainly motivating to turn out against a fundamentally MAGA point of view. And look, our opponents are trying to have it both ways, right? The gubernatorial nominee, Joe Lombardo for the Republicans, on the one hand calls Trump a sound president, but in that rally, Carrie, that you mentioned 2 days ago in the rural northern Nevada site of the Trump, I think you called it a sedition rally. He boasted about Trump being the most superlative president in history. So they want to have it both ways. And I don't think they're entirely sure how he plays, but I know they know that he lost by 2.4 and 2.3 points.
In a lot of places around the country, the battleground has become suburban, college-educated voters, mostly white women, but even we're starting to finally see some movement with white college-educated men. Will they actually vote Democrat this year? I'd be shocked if they did, but they're starting to have doubts. So the long-term prognosis is quite fascinating. Does Nevada have sort of those same dynamics? Are the Vegas suburbs a battleground, or is it more of a blue collar, union worker vote versus rural Nevada?
In general, I'd say the latter, Marcos. In general, Nevada is an extraordinarily working class place. Both white and Latino voters, many of the voters whom we're speaking to are non-college educated by and large. So I think political professionals would suggest that the kind of coalition that you're talking about, Marcos, it just looks different in Nevada. In general, we're talking to working class voters who, union or non-union, are not the college educated kind of new coalition who you're describing. That said, there are plenty of people with secondary education of some kind in our universe who we talk to every day. And so it's complicated. But in general, if you were going to paint the picture, I think Nevada's a bit unique in that way, right? We're definitely talking about
in a lot of ways. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Carrie, we have time for one more question. You got it?
I don't. I mean, I want to make sure we give Mario a chance to tell people how to get involved but do you have something?
No, that's actually really what I would love to give Mario a chance to do is how can people be involved? I know for one is a lot of my friends here in California, they cross the border, right? There's not a lot of exciting races in California outside of Orange County. So there's a lot of opportunity to head on over, but to Reno, down to the Vegas area if you're in SoCal. So there are, and you made phone calls. So there's a lot of, but Mario, you tell us and our listeners what they can do to help in this critically important race. And as you say, not just in the battle for the Senate, but also in all those battleground toss-up House races, because the House is just as much a battleground this year.
Yeah. So I'd plug 3 different things. The first is for people who want to spend the final 3 weeks of this election doing the most effective thing in a low margin race. And I have to say about Pennsylvania, I know that this is a Nevada program, Carrie and Marcos, but that Pennsylvania race is much closer than the Fetterman Oz polls would lead us to believe. Oz is not going to stay in the high 70s with Republicans. The race has been tightening in a number of public polls that we've all seen on 538 and Real Clear Politics. But for people who want to and are able to do the most effective thing, which is do door-to-door canvassing, go to unitehere.org/power. We are interviewing people who would consider doing canvas work with us. We're an extraordinarily rigorous and disciplined organization where you get the kind of training and political education and ability to have the conversation face-to-face with voters in a structured way. So if you are able to do it for the final 3 weeks, I'd plug unitehere.org/power. For those people, Marcos, who are proximate to Nevada, maybe you're a Californian, like you mentioned, who want to volunteer, seedthevote.org is the organization we are partnering with to help plug, and I can throw these in the chat if that works, who we're partnering with to help bring volunteers to our Reno operation. And then finally, the hospitality workers, we were 98% laid off 2 years ago. So we were able to knock on those 4.6 million doors. And like you said, Marcos, we're doing twice as much in Nevada and twice as much in Pennsylvania, 3 times actually, than we did then. We're still raising money to pay our canvassers. And so I can throw our Act Blue PAC link in the chat too. But the most important thing is to knock on doors, is to do something. Knock on those doors for a weekend, for 3 weeks, or share your cash. Thank you both so much for having us.
Of course.
So Mario, thank you so much. unitehere.org/power and seedthevote.org or .com?
.org/sign up.
seedthevote.org/sign up.
Sign up.
Yes, got it. Okay. Mario, thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for all the incredible work that you do, and best of luck. I know you guys are going to be a big part of the reason that we win in down to 4 weeks. So thanks so much for everything that you do. Really appreciate it.
No, thanks for your time, both of you. Thanks for all you do. Si se puede. Bye now.
Si se puede.
Bye.